Hi everybody, my name is Karen Fabian and I'm the founder of Bare Bones Yoga, and I want to talk to you today about head positioning in yoga poses. Now this is something that can apply to both practitioners, both students of yoga and teachers alike. I'm really focusing though on yoga teachers. So if you're watching this and you're a yoga teacher, this is definitely for you because it really has to do with what to look for when you're teaching when it comes to head positioning. So let's take a look at a couple things to start out. So here, as we look at the skeleton, essentially the skeleton is standing in anatomical position. Anatomical position is the home base of shapes. The feet are at hip width, the pelvis is level, the knees are straight ahead, the chest is broad and open, the shoulders are relaxed, and the head is centered over the body. Now the challenge becomes as we take people through the practice and they change their relationship to the floor, their posture can sometimes shift. Now there are definitely some poses where we want them to tip their head in different directions. However, there are some poses where we don't, and we want to call on the qualities of anatomical position as an alert to us as a teacher that we need to provide them with a cue to correct themselves, to help them self-correct. So I'm going to show you where head positioning really becomes critical. Once I have people go from standing up to facing the ground, it becomes harder and harder for them to keep their head steady because now they're fighting gravity. As I take them lower into low push-up, the same thing happens. And when the head starts to drop, the whole position of the posture tends to fall apart. And so this isn't really about aesthetics, it's really about helping people feel steady and strong in the pose. And when their head is dropping like that, it's very difficult for them to create that movement from high to low push-up in a steady and supportive way. So one thing you can do as a teacher is right at the beginning of your class, you can have people stand with their feet at hip width, have them come into anatomical position, ask them to close their eyes and cue them to the position of their head. You can even have them do what you don't want, have them jut their chin forward or take their head back and then find neutral. And you can provide all sorts of different cues for maybe a minute or two of helping them without the distraction of what they're seeing, tap into the somatic sensation of having their head centered over their body. Then take them from that into the practice, and you'll have that as a template to call back on as you take them through class. And as you see, what typically will happen, their chin jutting forward, as in high and low push-up, you can remind them, hey, remember when you were standing up and the head was centered over the body? See if you can do the same thing here. You'll also see it in poses where you have them side bending. So as you have people side bend, what tends to happen is the head will drop because they're really more focused on from the neck down. However, if they can right align their head, it can really provide a very different experience for them in the pose. And the whole thing really takes on new life, is much more comfortable, and let's face it, just a lot more fun. So head positioning is an important part of understanding how to apply anatomy to your teaching. And it's really something that's very much at the beginning, a fundamental concept that if you're a yoga teacher, you really need to understand, because anatomical position is the basis for so many things, not the least of which are the anatomical movements of the body, like flexion and extension and internal and external rotation. So if you're like a lot of the teachers I talk to, you might be out there trying to weed through all sorts of content on the internet to figure out anatomy on your own. In fact, you may have landed here on this video because you went into YouTube and you Googled yoga anatomy. Now I'm glad you're here because I can tell you something that a lot of teachers who teach anatomy don't share. And that is a step-by-step way to learn anatomy is the best way to do it. If you're out there and you continue to just pull from whatever kind of comes up when you ask the internet for information, it can get really confusing really fast, and you're not going to get any closer to your goal of understanding anatomy so that you can help your students through the cues and the sequences you provide. So what I'd like you to do is download my 10 key steps to learning anatomy. This guide will be attached to this video. It's a downloadable PDF. I would highly recommend that you print it out and use the subtopics under the broad topic of understanding anatomy as a way to guide you as you're out there surfing the web. Use those topic headers as something to look for rather than pulling from all sorts of different places, because as you know, anatomy is a big subject and you can end up down a rabbit hole and very confused in short order. I don't want that. I'd love you to have a guide to lead you through that research. So feel free to download it. If you have any questions once you take a look at it, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss the next video. And one last thing, I do have a podcast. It's called Conversations for Yoga Teachers, and I'd love for you to take a listen and see what you think. Thanks, and I'll see you on the next video. Namaste.